The Horns are coming. It's about to get real hot in Texas this summer, and I'm talking about on the recruiting trail. Big news last week. The number one wide receiver in America is back on the market. Five-star Doran Moore decommitted from LSU on Thursday, and we're going to find out if Texas is now the favorite to land him. I got Justin Wells from Inside Texas on this video. We're going to break it all down. But first, take a second to hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel, the best recruiting channel on YouTube. Hit subscribe. Thank you. All right, let's bring on Justin Wells from Inside Texas. Justin, we're here. Duncanville wide receiver Doran Moore is officially back on the market after his decommitment from LSU. You've been on this show a couple times in the past 6 weeks, essentially saying that this would happen. A lot of fans in the comment section didn't believe you, but now it has. What are your sources saying in regards to where the Horns stand?
Yeah, I think right now it's a Texas-Oregon battle. And he's going to give Ohio State a chance. He's going to take that official in a couple weeks to Columbus. But I feel like this is going to come down to Texas and Oregon ultimately. And you have to feel good if you're Texas. 2 months ago when we started, mentioning this and writing this in Inside Texas, it was with the caveat that he was going to wind up in Austin. And there's just so many things, so many factors, fact patterns that point towards Austin. And so I think that's why Texas is in a great spot. They still got to close it on the official visit. They're going to get it in mid-June. And then Oregon will get that last official on June 21st. Obviously, them hiring Rashad Samples, Doran Moore's head coach,
right.
Reginald Samples, that's his son, came from Arizona State, came from SMU, actually started coaching a little bit at Texas in the mid-2010s. And so it's going to come down to those two. But listen, Texas, this has Texas written all over it. He's been a big Horns fan for the longest time. He's been in Austin a ton of times. He has family in Austin. He has a pipeline from Duncanville to Austin. He has an edge player at Texas named Colin Simmons that is recruiting him maybe as hard as anybody. And they're looking at one of the best potential wide receiver hauls in the class of 2025. They're in a great spot with Moore. They're in an even better spot with Jamie French, looking solid with Khalil Lockett. Moore could be the cherry on the top of what could potentially be a top 5 or even a number 1 class.
And also, you touched on it. He's at Duncanville High School. We know that Texas has been intrigued by Keelan Russell, the quarterback there. Do you think that this decommitment from Doran Moore could also set the dominoes falling where they also take Keelan Russell, maybe not even to ensure that Doran Moore is coming, but because they've already been interested in, hey, now that Moore's back on the market, maybe now is the time to move on Russell?
I think that's a little early. I still think there's a lot of stuff to play out. Keelan still has a lot of trips he wants to take, and his stock is just continually rising. I mean, this is a guy he's getting more and more attention each week, and for good reason. Keelan is a tremendous passer, and I think Texas is going to keep doing what they've been doing, just monitoring him, staying close to him, building that relationship. Is there a tie with Doran Moore? There might be a little bit of lag there, but I think overall Keelan's his own man, and I think when it's all said and done, he's going to have his recruitment is going to be really big and really important. I don't think he's going to wind up sticking with SMU. I think he's going to have a number of big schools that he can choose from. Texas is going to keep him there. Now, KJ Lacey, if he keeps taking visits, then I can see it get a little bit more interesting. But Lacey's set for his official visit in June. He's still locked in. And I think right now Texas is going to just keep it in a holding pattern. Just stay close to Keelan. Make sure that they have that connection. They have that relationship. They have such a great foundation in Duncanville High School already. They got 3 guys on the roster. They got a handful of others they're in the mix for, some offers from the young 2026s and 27s. I mean, that pipeline was built there for a reason. And so I think Keelan's going to wind up being his own recruitment in and of itself. And KJ Lacey, it's going to depend on how he handles the next 6 months before signing day. Right now, it feels like, Lacey's going to wind up in this class, but Keelan is climbing, and people need to pay attention.
Yeah, we talked about the Alabama offer about 3 weeks ago. Last week, it was the Oregon Ducks that offered Keelan Russell. So those offers, they're still rolling in. You mentioned kind of where Texas goes next at the wide receiver board. We know Doran Moore is back on the market now. We also know that Jamie French, I don't want to say he's trending to Texas, but in some people's opinion, Texas is the favorite to land him. So now that the wide receiver board's coming into focus, do they have room for Khalil Lockett? And do you think that all 3 would want to be on the same team together?
I do think all three would want to be on the same team together. I think Texas leads for Jamie French right now. I'm even considering an RPM. You may see something like that later in the week. Be sure and check out the On3 recruiting videos and Inside Texas, because I'm getting closer and closer with that one. Moore's been the top of the list since Chris Jackson got the job. Moore's been the number one guy for 2025 for a while. And, Kalik Lockett caught up with the staff a few days ago, and Kalik loves the idea of playing with fellow 5-stars. If Texas were able to get 3 5-stars in this 2025 haul and Moore, French, and Lockett, that reminds me of the class of 2000 when Texas brought in Roy Williams and B.J. Johnson and Sloan Thomas. I mean, it's on par with those guys. And so that's the thing. All these guys hung out with each other on April 6th when they took an unofficial to Texas. Right. And they all left saying a lot of the same things, all on the same page. And the idea that they get to play in this offense for a team that's trajectory is going nowhere but up and catching passes potentially from Arch Manning at the next level, all signs point to Texas looks in great shape to land all three of those guys.
Yeah. And Texas is in great shape for more than just a couple wide receivers here. We look at who's trending. You got offensive tackle Michael Fasusi. He's a 5-star from Louisville, Texas, number 4 offensive tackle in the country. Also, linebacker Riley Pettijohn, sitting right outside 5-star status at number 38 overall in the country. He goes 6'3", 200, and he's trending at 93% to Texas. Now, I said at the top, it could be a hot summer for the Longhorns. Do you think that we got Doran Moore potentially making his decision in July, Michael Fasusi making his decision in July, Riley Pettijohn possibly making – could all these guys come together on the Texas commit list in July?
Absolutely. But, I wouldn't be surprised if Pettijohn maybe sped up his timeline a little bit. We weren't expecting Elijah Barnes to go all summer. Mm-hmm. But we weren't expecting him to drop in April either. And I think Texas is in as good a shape with Pettijohn as they were with Barnes. That's the linebacker duo out of Dallas-Fort Worth. Pettijohn, I think, still wants to take his visits for sure. Wants to see USC. I think Ohio State might be on the slate. Texas A&M is still going to get a visit as well. But I wouldn't be surprised if Pettijohn sped up his timeline a little bit. I mean, him and Texas make a lot of sense. That's a match they've been growing and building for the last 6 months to a year. I think Johnny Nansen has made up a lot of ground that Jeff Choate had essentially built. Then when you add Chris Gilbert and you add Jeff Banks and you add the all staff from Steve Sarkisian, right now, Texas and Pettijohn looks really good. And I can see Fasusi and Moore taking it to July. Right. A lot of these guys are going to make their decisions in July and August. They're going to get their spots before the season senior starts because they don't want the distractions. They don't want the hassle. But with Pettijohn, just like Barnes, I wouldn't be surprised if that timeline was sped up just a little bit. It'll be interesting, man. You're right. June's going to be hot. But July, we're talking like Indian summer in Austin. Yeah. It could be cooking, and 5 stars left and right could be dropping, and that's why it's fun to cover it right now in Austin.
Yeah, and July will be hot because of the work that the Texas staff is putting on the trail right now, all the way dating back really a year ago from now, working on some of these 2025 guys. Texas fans, talk to me. How do we feel right now about landing the trio of wide receivers, Kalik Lockett, Doran Moore, and Jamie French? Tap in, comment section below. Can the Horns pull this off? Well, you've made it to the end of today's video, but there's hundreds more videos on the On3 Recruits channel for you to check out. And also, while you're here, hit subscribe.